Speaking of Tim Waltz, this is a question for Dr. Steve. I guess, have you heard about his statements that he made, I think, last night on the news talking about free speech?
Sure, yeah.
So for anyone that didn't see this, this just happened. It was Tim Waltz went on for an interview and talked about how free speech does not apply to misinformation and hate speech. So
defined by who?
Exactly.
Tim Waltz.
I would say those. If that's your qualifications, then he can't say a word, right? He can say a word because all I hear is misinformation and hate coming from him. So it's it's the attempt to control the narrative. What Connor and I were talking about it. It's the exact same thing we're seeing in the UK right now, where Keir Starmer, their new prime minister, who's already a disaster, left-wing prime minister, is already a disaster, and he's basically coming out and blaming all the riots and protests that we're seeing throughout the cities of Manchester and the like. He's blaming it on right-wing misinformation. He's blaming it basically on Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk when all is said and done. And but it's all an admission. That's the key, which you have to get. It is an admission that they're losing the narrative. They're losing it, and they're getting desperate. If they controlled the narrative, they wouldn't even give us the time of day, like they didn't in 2016. Alex Jones was on YouTube in 2016. Let that hit you. I used to watch Alex Jones on YouTube in 2016. The only reason why they're cracking down is because they are admitting they're losing the narrative.
What's your perspective on the?
What's interesting about the Keir Starmer thing is he threatened prosecution on people saying something online, which is wild, stirring it up. So it's super vague. So he would say, if you were doing the riots, we're going to imprison you. He would say, if you're doing the riots, we're going to imprison you. And then he said, if you're stirring it up online, we'll also imprison you.
Yeah. So in other words, retweeting, liking a post. Yeah.
So then it becomes this deep, like, what did you say online? Know what you did last summer type of thing.
Right.
Closer, Micah.
For heaven's sakes.
Can you hold the mic, actually?
You want me to hold it?
Yes, we can hear you. You're
Too quiet, apparently.
very gentle.
Yes. Gentle demeanor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've said everything I wanted to say.
There you go.
We'll say it again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can hear me? Oh, well, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
So, Keir Starmer said in his terrible speech that if we would prosecute the people who were doing the riots and it wasn't really right. We would prosecute the people who were protesting, and then if you were caught stirring it up online, we'll also prosecute you. But that doesn't. No one knows what that means. What it would mean to stir, like just following Tommy Robinson might be stirring it up online, or being one of the 35 million that watched his documentary on X or whatever. So, it's like a vice grip on. I guess it will. You probably talk to this as the movement progresses and grows. You probably have a strengthening of the iron fist.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably seeing that right now the world over.
Yeah,
Would you say so?
Yeah, we saw it in Eastern Europe as the Berlin Wall was starting to shake. They got more and more brutal.
Yeah.
We saw it in the Soviet Union. Heck, there was a coup attempt against Gorbachev in the Soviet Union back in 1991 that he survived. So yeah, they get desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. And that's what all of this is. It's just acts of desperation. Now, again, it can hurt. Like I said, this is the Stockdale principle. We can get tortured in this process. But make sure you understand that it is an admission that they recognize their power slipping from their grip. Yeah.
And my follow-up, you have a question?
Well, I do have a question. So, what is the antidote? I have an idea what the antidote is. What is the antidote to that?
Yeah, so for me, when all is said and done, it's those parallel structures, because then that gives us the space to be able to control the narrative and challenge the dominant narrative and draw more and more people to ours. Because I think when you compare the two narratives, it's very hard to go with, oh, this is all the result of just far right-wing stuff while children are getting stabbed at dance class. That's very difficult to maintain, and we're finding that with the latest polls. 70% of Brits blame the demonstrations that are happening now in the UK on an out-of-touch immigration system. They don't blame it on Tommy Robinson. They're blaming, and now the latest one is immigration is now the #1 issue in the UK for the first time in 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, some good news. Elon Musk and Rumble have decided to cooperate.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
create the second channel.
Oh, wonderful.
And
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing, of course, as soon as we left America.
It always, yeah, it always happens.
And then we have the antitrust going on with Google, guys. The government wants to break Google up. And it's one of the most positive things that's come out of America in a very,
Yeah.
very long time.
I agree. Yeah.
So I just want you guys to know that's huge news
Yeah.
on especially the parallel universe that we need.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
required.
And the first thing I did is I sent that case to our lawyers.
Oh, cool. Good. Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing, I mean, the parallel structure, 100%. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
One of the, I mean, have you ever heard of Desmond Matthias? What is it? The totalitarianism. I can't remember what his book is. Anyways, he's a Belgian doctor, PhD, and one of the things that he mentioned was, or in his book, was that when you have these totalitarian societies, the best thing that you can do in order to save your society is to speak up. The more people that speak up, the harder it is for them to take control.
I love it. I love it. That was ironically that was the idea of the Czechoslovakian notion of the parallel polis, is creating this parallel space, parallel structures where we could speak truth.
Yeah.
And then Solzhenitsyn says, one word of truth outweighs the world, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's very, I think we're all seeing the same thing, and we're all moving towards the same target, which is great.
2020. What comes to mind when I say that? COVID, the coming of a frail and crumbling president, followed by wide open borders. It's no longer an if situation. It's a when, gang. When will the next emergency situation happen? We're still a long, long way from November. And if we're paying any attention at all, it's likely almost upon us. So being prepared is no longer a choice. It's a necessity. Thank God for the wellness company. Gang, they are amazing. They've given me and my family the peace of mind to handle any medical crisis for my family. From tick bites to the next pandemic, the wellness company's medical emergency kit is a true lifeline. This is absolutely essential to stock up on in case of an emergency. It's chock full of essential meds like ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, and more. This kit gives you real peace of mind for this area of preparedness. And the wellness company is a team of renowned medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and even more truth-seeking doctors. The medical emergency kit they've designed sets the gold standard for safety and prevention. Gang, don't wait until the next crisis is here. Get peace of mind now by clicking on that link below or visiting twc.health/Turley and use promo code Turley for an exclusive discount. I got my emergency pack. Now it's your turn. Click on that link below right now.
Follow-up question would be, with free speech playing a very important role here in America, and when we feel that under attack in America, what role would that have in a retraditionalized world? So with these civilizations such as Russia, Iran, who, when they are retraditionalized, might stray away from the values of free speech that we might have, or all these different rights.
Yeah. So you're going. Yeah. So in a civilizationalist world, they're gonna have their own outworking. That's why I love being part of America, or the Anglosphere, or however you want to define it. In our Anglo traditions, free speech is huge. It's very important. I mean, even John Milton in the 17th century said free speech is the fundamental protection of being able to proclaim openly the gospel. So I mean, he really, you're right. He just really it's just so embedded in our British common law tradition. So I thank God for it. But no, I mean, if you go into Russia, you go into Iran or China, you're going to deal with different traditions there, and the idea that we can just sort of, again, in Bush-like fashion, superimpose our conception of free state. Good luck. It's not going to happen. What you could do, though, is you can publicly parade, as it were, the blessings of free speech and how it enables the freedom of thought, which is really cool. And that freedom of thought then becomes incredibly innovative. And so you can make an argument there for it on an international level. But the idea that faith, family, and freedom, the way we've worked it out, translates directly to, say, Russia, for example. As I understand, Russia, you're going to have a lot more freedom to say what you think about, like, cultural issues, social issues, and the like. But you're going to be more limited on political speech. Right. That's where you get that term. What is it? Libertarian. What is it now? Autocratic libertarianism. Wow. Yeah, right. How's that for a phrase? Autocratic libertarianism. And that's basically Russia. I know several expats living in Russia, and they basically say, look, the political sphere, you got to watch out, admittedly so, as you have had to for centuries, anywhere, right? You got to watch out what you say in the political sphere. Anything else, you can do whatever you want. So that's that sort of that autocratic libertarianism. Anything that you're totally free. You could be as politically incorrect as you want in Russia. You can mock and ridicule people in any way, shape, or form, and nothing's going to happen to you. Whereas, here you literally have an Ayatollah regime in the media that is every bit as fundamentalist as anything you would get in Shiite Islam and, say, in Iran. Or among Hezbollah, that will police what you can say morally and culturally in a way that just won't happen in Russia, or even to a certain extent, as I understand it, China as well, though China does crack down a bit more on the cultural side.